Hello and welcome to my breakdown, analysis and reaction to the trailer for Resident Evil 8 Village. In this video I'll be offering my opinions on what the trailer has shown us, along with some potentially interesting details some of you may have missed upon watching it. I don't know how accurate anything that I'm about to say will turn out to be, but hopefully it'll be an interesting discussion regardless. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. As far as we know, we're going to have Ethan Winters from Resident Evil 7 as the main protagonist for this game, but as we know Chris Redfield also appears, I think it's fair to assume this opening tagline refers to him. It was hinted in Resident Evil 6 that he wanted to retire from the BSAA and hand over his position to Piers Nivens, which I personally would have been fine with. I assume this game is going to follow through with that idea. This story about the girl disappearing into the forest could potentially refer to Natalia from Revelations 2 and her takeover by Alex Wesker. After all, this game was originally going to be Revelations 3, and the logo still retains hints of that. The Roman numerals for 8, when given the Resident Evil logo, become Rev 3. However, this story starts what I think is a lot of symbolic hints to the game's story and themes which are contained in this trailer. This story is about a mother and her daughter. The forest, through the eyes of a young man, is symbolic of femininity in the unexplored realm of the unknown. The forest also symbolically connects to the mother, as life thrives in the forest. In other depictions, the forest can symbolize change, as you never leave the forest the same as when you entered it. The forest in this story, and in the visuals of the trailer, is seen as dark. A dark forest often symbolizes darkness in the mind and unfaced fears.
No! Friendly!
So, in this scene we get to see that it's Ethan we're playing as again, with the Resident Evil 7 first-person playstyle that I can honestly say I personally wasn't much of a fan of. However, it does work well for a horror game, so it's not a deal-breaker for me. That being said, this scene naturally carries on from the line about being paranoid. This man with the shotgun is extremely paranoid and asks who sent Ethan to his location. This question implies the existence, at least in his mind, of some kind of group, cult, or other organisation that is a threatening force in the area. This wouldn't be the first time we've had such a thing in a Resident Evil game, with the most memorable example for me being the Los Iluminados in Resident Evil 4, a game this game seems to be emulating in areas, but more on that later.
They're coming. Who is?
Also, it's worth noting you can hear a watch ticking by rapidly throughout this scene. This could have gameplay significance, or it could mean there's a time limit element in the story, which again would not be unheard of in Resident Evil. By pausing in certain moments, we can see that these BOWs are humans infected with some kind of new virus. Whether that's the mold of Resident Evil, some form of Las Plagas, Ouroboros, or other progenitor-type virus is yet to be seen. But their designs sure do look creepy enough, and their movement speed could be an issue if we aren't able to run in this game like in 7. Now, the most important symbol from the trailer, which the developers themselves were unsure about revealing. There is a lot of potential meaning in this image, so I'm going to try to break it down the best I can. So let's focus on each element to try and derive an overall meaning. The most striking is, of course, the fetus in the center. My question is it a fetus or a mandrake group, as mandrakes can cause hallucinations, something rumoured to be a theme in the game, and were used by witches in their potions because of that. If it is a fetus, which it most likely is, then it could be a connection to Resident Evil 7, which some artwork from that game also depicted a fetus. Of course, this fetus is obviously of a BOW, perhaps another Evelyn. It's also worth noting that the main menu of Operation Raccoon City also included a fetus. The fetus is located inside a ring. Rings tend to be symbols of bonds, alliances, and vows. However, it could also represent the circle of life, or more specifically, the cycle of creation and destruction. Outside that are four wings, presumably from crows or ravens, positioned like the umbrella logo. Those wings could symbolize an omen of death. Behind all of these elements is what looks like a loose nest of twigs and sticks. Nests usually are positive symbols of the home. So a lot of this is rather contradictory, and it might make more sense later. But one thing that did strike me is how similar this image is to the cover art of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Now, I'm not a Harry Potter nerd, but the wings in that image belong to the augury, I believe that's how it's pronounced, a creature believed to foretell death. The nest is symbolic of the Potter family's fame, and the boy inside, Albus, presumably, is trying to leave the metaphorical nest of his famous family. The wings also represent the antagonist's machinations throughout the story, which trap the boy. Now, to be fair, this parallel might mean nothing whatsoever for Resident Evil 8, but I did find it interesting nonetheless, and it may prove more significant as we continue on. This statue is of a female warrior, perhaps symbolic of a mother fighting for her children. More on that later. As mentioned previously about the idea of a cult, this magic circle or occult symbol drawn on the floor hints to that being the case. Something religious or supernatural is definitely playing a part of this story. So this story is obviously a puzzle in the game, where we'll need the face of a female warrior and of the demon to open it. However, by looking closely, we can see that it's probably the same warrior from the statue, and the demon appears to be holding something as if to eat it. Maybe her child, who knows? The demon itself is a classic depiction of a goat-like winged demon, potentially of Baphomet himself. Note as well the tormented souls on the doorframe. I believe it's been confirmed that this woman here is a new character and is not Maya or Mia or however you want to pronounce it, Ethan's wife. She's obviously going to play an important role and is clearly the mother to this newborn child. Keep this detail in mind. In this image, we see the crops and the scarecrow poles. What's interesting is that these poles seem to have claws or large teeth hanging from them, and the top seems to be some kind of symbol. It kind of reminds me of the symbols in Resident Evil 4 for the Los Iluminados. And it's also worth noting as well that the scarecrow is a symbol of death and starvation. This is another look at the magic circle or occult symbol we saw drawn on a floor, and as we can see it appears to be almost identical to the symbol with the fetus and the wings. In this clearer image it looks like some variation of a runic circle, often used in witchcraft and spiritualism. Now this is an interesting little image. So we have four symbols we can clearly see and another that's out of focus. The centerpiece is familiar to all Resident Evil fans as the famed umbrella symbol. However, is this of the Umbrella Corporation or Umbrella Corps? Because those are two different things. Closest to us, we have a horse and a horseshoe, a well-known symbol for good luck and good fortune. To the left, we have a mermaid, which is a symbol of freedom and feminine power, which could connect to the female warrior and motherhood. And to the right, we have what looks to be the sun and moon face. This symbol usually depicts strength, power, and rebirth, with the moon face representing a female goddess. I can honestly say I have no idea what the top symbol is, but I assume it's probably something symbolizing feminine power in some way. So far, I have no idea who this man is, but based on his character design, I reckon he's the father of this new female character, who's the mother of the baby. I'm just guessing, but I'm going to assume he knows more about what's going on here than he'll initially reveal, and that this will probably come back to literally bite him. Horses spiritually represent freedom, movement, travel, and desire, though in Celtic mythology they're representative of good luck and fortune, which we saw earlier with the horse and a horseshoe. So naturally, a dead horse can mean the opposite of all these things. no freedom, restriction, and bad fortune ahead. Though the horse depicted is black, whereas usually a white horse is the bringer of death. The next animal we see is a black goat. Goats can be linked to witchcraft and the satanic, often serving as a stand-in for the devil himself. But we've already seen a goat depicted earlier in this trailer in the form of Baphomet the demon. He has horns like a goat, and his shield also depicted the face of a goat. After all this talk of witchcraft, we get a glimpse of a woman who looks exactly like a witch. Her walking stick appears to be made of branches or antlers. Curiously, in some cultures, deers with antlers are seen as representing spiritual authority. Given how sinister she looks and her cloaked appearance, I'm willing to guess this could be Alex Wesker. It flashes by very quickly, but in this scene I think it's the man from earlier getting shot by the woman from the corridor depicted earlier. Either that, or it's the young mother shooting him, which would be a dramatic twist if it is her father, like I assume. This is obviously another one of the antagonists, one of the assumed witches of the story, though upon first glance she reminded me of Jessica from Revelations 1. And as we can see in these other clips, these women are obviously infected by something, and have been given abilities. This continues the presumed witchcraft theme along with the underlying symbolism of powerful women and femininity. In this quick clip that really stood out to me, we have multiple new BOWs, which can be seen wielding weapons like the Ganado, Magini, or Juavo. More strikingly is the appearance of this enemy that seems like a variation of the Executioner from Resident Evil 5. This could hint at the involvement of Las Plagas again. Either way, after my infamously bad luck with Executioners in Resident Evil 5 Versus, I can honestly say I am not looking forward to meeting his Romanian cousin. Now this is also a character who has sparked interest, with some believing he could be the merchant of the game, as some gameplay footage has shown there to be an in-game currency. I expect him to play a much larger role than Resident Evil 4's merchant, however, as he looks almost like a Van Helsing kind of character. His character design screams badass to me, though the scars on his face could mean he's come off second best a couple times. This scene looks like it could be a division of the Umbrella Corps led by Chris, perhaps raiding and searching Ethan's house. These new BOWs look very much like werewolves, which is an interesting choice as it sounds like a fantastic design for a BOW from a practical standpoint. But this too could have some hidden symbolism. Werewolves have often been depicted as enemies disguised as friends, which leads us on to this next scene.
Chris? Sorry, Ethan. Why?
Could this mean that Chris is the enemy disguised as a friend, hence why it could be the end of his story? Could it be that Maya is the enemy disguised as a friend yet again? Or does this scene depict the concept of hallucinations, and what just happened was all in Ethan's head? I guess only time will tell. So now that I've gone scene by scene with the trailer, it's time to try to cobble this all together to see what we can maybe learn from it. By the looks of things, the game seems to be treading similar ground to Resident Evil 4, with a mysterious village followed by a castle, so I'm hoping that's all the inspiration it takes from 4. That being said, it does provide a creepy, interesting atmosphere, and with the inclusion of Ethan Winters along with Chris Redfield and potentially Alex Wesker, we have a game that should be weaving several plot elements from different games all into one story. One story that could be the last we see of our favourite muscle man. I do, however, hope that the game provides us with greater movement to help us deal with what look to be fast and stealthy enemy types. And though I do feel it has to be said that the game feels more Van Helsing than Resident Evil, judging from this trailer alone anyway, hopefully that feeling will fade as more content is released. I can certainly say that I'm interested, especially to see if I'm right about themes such as femininity, motherhood, female power, and rebirth playing significant roles within the game's storyline. The rebirth element is of particular interest, as it could refer to Umbrella, to Alex Wesker, to Ethan Winters actually being an engaging character this time, or indeed to Resident Evil as a whole. Some have claimed this could be the last Resident Evil game, but I highly doubt that because as long as this series makes money, Capcom will want to keep it going. Anyway, that just about sums up all my observations and thoughts on Resident Evil 8 based on this trailer alone. So now I turn it over to you. What do you think about the trailer? Do you agree with my thematic observations, or do you think I'm giving Capcom way too much credit? Is there anything you think I missed? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's get this discussion going.